Hi guys, so here's a video I've wanted to do for a while. It started when I saw a video on YouTube by Journaljoy about cheap versus expensive notebooks. And I really liked her video and I think it was quite interesting. But in this video she compared what I, here from France, would have called a notebook and pads and cahiers. And what we call cahier is what you use at school, and pads are just not notebooks for us. So maybe there was a cultural difference between the position from Journaljoy and mine, but I thought I would make an answer video to her own video, to which I'm going to post a link in the description box. And in my mind really compare cheap versus expensive, but only notebooks. So to the left of this pile, I just chose one nice looking notepad. So to me this is not a notebook. One Waterby cahier by Claire Fontaine, which is what you would use at school, and that to me is not a notebook either, and a writing pad for students. And that's also not what I would call a notebook. So let's put that aside and let's put in place of that pile a pile of cheap notebooks. And the clicking sound you hear is my little dachshund going under the table. Okay, so let's have a look at all these. If you look at the pile from the left and the pile on the right, the main difference between these when it comes to price, these ones are below 10 euros, so below $12 approximately. Now this pile is comprised of notebooks which I would consider expensive, ranging from 15 to 30 euros. Now to the right side I also have two notebooks which are leather notebooks, which range from 50 to $100. So let's have a look at this. From what you see from here, these two piles look quite the same. You've got about the same features: the elastic bands, the page marks, the amount of pages, the sizes vary a little, but basically we are in the range of A5 notebooks. And that's what I meant with I did not agree with the comparison between pads and notebooks. Here we've got two piles which are very much alike. And I sometimes try this because I think maybe they offer a nice alternative to these more expensive notebooks. So let's have a look at a few of these. This is an Idena, that's the cheapest you can find. Looks very much like a Moleskine in white. And here's another from Idena, which is a hardcover, again looking very much like a Moleskine, but not the same quality in the outside cover. Okay, this one is a Sylvine. The Sylvine is more like a Rhodia look-alike. Okay, this one is a bit original. It's a Rössler Papier from Germany. That's very nice looking. So this one particularly is cheap, but looks quite nice on the outside. And finally there's one from Italy, more in the how would I say, decorative one. So if you look at them like this, you don't see a lot of difference with the other side. So here we have a Baron Fig. Okay, here we have a Code&Quill. So already you can see a little difference. The designs are close, but the quality of the covers are not exactly the same. Here you have an Ogami Professional. I'll talk about this one later, I'll put it aside. Here you've got a Rhodia Moulin Rouge. Here we've got a Leuchtturm, which is the almost exact look-alike to the white Idena. And here we've got a Diktator made in Swaziland from, I can't remember the name, that's from Papier, the paper, a different type of notebook. Oh, sorry, this one has nothing to do on this pile. This one goes on this pile. That's a Chiac, and it's quite a cheap notebook. This is a Moleskine hardcover, and finally this is a beautiful chocolate Rhodia. Okay, so let's put these back. So, as for the look, they look almost the same. This pile has a better quality of covers, definitely, and a wider variety, but there isn't much difference. So what makes a difference between a cheap and an expensive pile of notebooks? And definitely the difference is paper. So when you use fountain pens with your notebooks, it does make a difference. If you use ballpoint pens, doesn't make much of a difference, except the comfort and pleasure of writing will not be the same. Right, let's take a few examples. On the check, the paper is fairly okay, but it's got grain, and the issue is feathering and show through, sometimes bleed through. Okay, if we take the Rustler, so I have a page of writing on the Rustler. The problem is feathering, show through, bleed through, as you can see. Okay, and any one you take, the issue will basically be the same. Maybe I wrote something in the in this one. Right, let's have a look at this. Feathering, show through, bad quality paper, and that's basically the difference between these and these. The difference is the quality of the paper. So let's have a look at the Leuchtturm, for example. I wrote something at the end. I wrote a test at the end of the Leuchtturm. That was charged with Giabin Poussière de Lune, and that was quite charged actually. There's a little show through, no feathering, no bleed through, but drying time is a bit longer. Of course, if you've got feathering, your drying time is a lot shorter, but still. Most of the time, the difference will be there. Even in this one, you see you've got no feathering, no bleed through, just a little show through, and that would be the end of it. With the Code&Quill, right, see, and the comfort when you're writing is a lot different. There's a little bleed through with the stronger ink on this one, but most of the time, there's a Baron Fig. I've been writing on the Baron Fig, and this is perfect. You've got no show through, no bleed through, and nothing, and there's a pleasure in writing in them. So what you should consider when going for a cheap version or an expensive one is your writing comfort. You will find very nice looking cheap notebooks, but in these notebooks you will never ever find a great paper, and that's the thing. The price here, it comes from the paper quality. If you take Rhodia, for example, Rhodia typically doesn't have the most amazing cover, though it's a very nice cover. It's not the most amazing cover you will find, but they've got a tremendous paper. It's, as people say, Rhodia smooth, and you've got no bleed through, almost no show through, and no feathering. And writing on this is very smooth and pleasant. And if you write a lot like I do, it does make a difference. And if you have arthritis like I have in your hands, then writing on a smooth paper makes a hell of a difference. So, there is an exception. There's an exception. This one, which I reviewed, is an exception. It's special because it's stone paper, and stone paper is fairly expensive. It has qualities, it does, but that's what you get with a fountain pen. After 3 minutes, it's not even dry. Of course, you've got little show through and no bleed through, but it never dries. And as a lefty, that's a huge problem for me. I really destroyed the image of that notebook. I'm sorry for the makers. Now, when you move on to even more expensive ones, I would say why you move to things like $70 notebooks or even a more expensive notebook. There, it's not the difference in paper or the quality. It's really your own pleasure. So it's when you move above the 30-40 euros category or dollars category, that's pleasure and leather. or leather and pleasure. I think that sounds a little masochistic. Well, whatever. I'm not into this anyways. But the thing is, that's the main difference to consider. Writing, pleasure of writing, and the quality of the paper. Apart from that, if you do not care about the paper, then you can go to a cheap version. If you do care, please never go under that category. Below $15, you will not find a pleasant paper notebook. But if you do find one, please leave a comment and tell me which brand offers a cheap notebook with good quality paper, and I would be very happy to try this. So do not hesitate to leave a comment, say anything you want about the video. I like to have feedback. And remember to go and check that nice video from Journaljoy, because that's the one which made me think of doing this one.